What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So, you guys voted on the video for today. For better or for worse, we are here with Umbra Grendel. Yes, I did drop an Umbra Forma on Grendel, and I will show you the build and the synergies and all that kind of stuff that we're going over. Overall, I'd say it was not actually too bad of a use of Umbra Forma. But we'll talk about some things that might potentially persuade you to do this or dissuade you to do this. With Grendel. So, you've got the Steel Path gameplay in the background here. This is with no shield getting cheese. Grendel's actually really good at shield getting cheese if you're someone that likes to run like a Decaying Dragon Key and stuff like that. But we'll be showing a build with Helminth Roar here. And we'll go over why we decided to go with Helminth Roar. And we'll go over some other options too if you don't want to use Roar on your Helminth option for Grendel. Alright, so Grendel is a frame that a lot of people don't like. Either they don't think he looks very cool, or they think that his energy drain is too aggressive, which I would agree with. It's pretty aggressive energy drain. But I think the energy drain is very aggressive on his one for a reason. His first ability is one of the most crazy abilities in the entire game. Just to put this in perspective, you press the first ability with Grendel. You open the mouth of doom, and you start absorbing enemies into your stomach. Those enemies are taken off the battlefield and are in your stomach, getting their armor removed per second. Once you either hold down the button again to belch them back out, or barf them back out, or if you run out of energy, you will basically just discharge them from your frame, and they'll take a huge toxin damage and toxin proc over time. So that toxin damage and toxin proc over time is why we're running Helminth Roar from Rhino. With enough power strength, you're getting like this build is a 60% buff. That will apply to the toxin proc after you belch enemies out. Not to mention, it will make your weapons do more damage too. So if you don't know what Grendel's abilities are, we're going to go briefly over them, just the things that I think are important here. So, like I said, he's involving lots of eating the enemies and lots of belching the enemies out, also getting some buffs too. So his passive is every enemy that you have consumed in your stomach gives you 50 bonus armor. Keep in mind, armor in this game only affects your health bar. Thankfully, with this build, we have a pretty large health bar. So let's say you eat like one enemy. That's 50 more armor. Not going to really give you too much extra damage reduction, especially if you're running the full Umbra build like we are here. But as you can see, I mean, we have two enemies eaten right here. We can just face tank the entire wave of enemies easily. So the way I play Grendel and the way I'd recommend for this play style specifically, eat like one to three enemies. The only reason you're going to eat these enemies is because you want to actually have an enemy in your stomach to cast your second ability. Second ability is called Nourish. This is going to basically mean where you have three different buffs you can choose from. The general gist of it is one of the buffs is an energy buff, which these also work for your teammates, of course. Increase energy regen from all sources. The other one's called Nourished Armor. Contrary to what the name is called, it does not actually give you any bonus armor. What Nourished Armor does is when you're shot, you will shoot a toxin like blast in the area that deals kind of terrible damage, to be honest. Nourished Armor, I say, is not even worth casting. It technically does a toxin blast in the area on kill as well, but 500 toxin damage with 200% strength is really not much to write home about. So I would not recommend even bothering casting Nourished Armor unless you do it on accident. The final buff is called Nourished Strike. This is going to be one of the very important ones, which will give you increased toxin damage. It's basically an extra toxin mod on your build. Now keep in mind, this does work on some abilities, but, for the grand scheme of things, just pretend like it only works on weapons. It does technically work on his barf damage from his first ability. And unfortunately, see that damage, it says right there, 1,000 damage with the power strength. That damage is actually bugged to not scale with power strength currently. But with our current build with 200% strength, we have 10% armor removal per second. This is going to be actually very crucial to the playstyle. You eat some enemies with Grendel with his first ability. If you even feel like you need to do this, eat some enemies, eat some Steel Path Grenier enemies. After 10 seconds, spit them out, they're guaranteed dead. All their armor is gone. The toxin proc does a bunch of damage. They're guaranteed dead after 10 seconds, guys. We'll show that in Simulacrum as well. But yeah, with Roar even, they're super guaranteed to be dead because you're doing additional damage with your toxin proc as well. So as you can see in the background gameplay, I mean, we're using Arcane Grace. This is basically a better Inaros because Inaros' abilities aren't very useful. At least Grendel's 1 and his 2 are actually useful. The hardest decision of this entire build is deciding to replace the 3 or the 4. The 4 is the one that turns into the big meatball that rolls around and deals pretty bad damage. And the 3 is the one that shoots out, it's called Regurgitate. Basically just turns an enemy in your stomach into a cannonball. They're both really bad abilities. Just decide which one you want to remove to replace with. So if you don't want to run Roar, you can also run Breach Surge. I've tried that out from Wisp. You can also do Gloom from Sevagoth. I have not really tried that one out myself, but since we're not really eating too many enemies, the energy drain on his 1 isn't too aggressive with his current setup. So let's get into the build real quick, and I'll show you, some things you can maybe possibly try out with Grendel. Now, of course, there's plenty of customization here, and this build is not entirely maxed out because it's hard to fit all this stuff on. You might need a second Umbra format to fit, maxed out versions of all these mods in here. But we've got Prime Flow to make it so our energy pool is pretty high. That will help us, basically be chilling with some energy here. Always able to cast your 2. The 2 also gives you a big heal whenever you cast it, which will help you, with all this damage reduction. We've got, with 1,000 armor from the Umbra mods, 77% reduction to damage on our health. You've also got Adaptation. When it's fully stacked up, 90% damage reduction, both on shields and health. So, stack those together. They did nerf how damage reduction stacking works in the Sister Parvos update, but it's technically really, really good EHP. We've got Arcane Grace, which will heal us by, 6% health per second for 9 seconds. With this big of a health pool, 3,000, almost 3,300. If you max this out, probably be like around 3,500-ish health. You're getting a big chunk of healing every second. Prime Sure Footed, so you can spam AoE rocket launchers at your feet and not get knocked over. Prime Continuity, so your buffs last longer. The standard buff duration on this thing is terrible. It's 25 seconds at base with no mods. So with Prime Continuity, it's 36 seconds. Still really annoying. So you might want to consider not even running Prime Continuity and running Hunter Adrenaline in this slot. Technically, like I said, all the energy sources are increased with Nourish Energy. Hunter Adrenaline is an energy restoring ability. This gets affected by his second ability's Energy Restore. So you might want to try that. But the way that we're playing, we're not really relying too much on being at full energy and stuff like that. I just use Prime Flow as a cushion of making it very easy to just constantly be casting. As far as the other abilities, I did say this is an Umbra Grendel build, so we have all 3 of the Umbra mods. Umbra Intensify being very important, 77% ability strength, very good for giving you a stronger roar, giving you that crucial 10% armor removal per second. Now keep in mind, you could go higher into strength to remove armor even faster, but the 10% per second feels good. And of course, it makes your buff stronger too. So Umbra Vitality, Umbra Fiber, making it so your EHP is stronger. Keep in mind, you'll definitely get one shot, around level 500, 600 in the Steel Path. But that's the thing. Are you gonna really go that late? Because if you are gonna go that late, we actually have this build will still technically work at level 1,000 or whatever, because we have Augur Secrets on here. Augur Secrets, 40% of your energy spent on abilities is turned into shields. So as long as you have an enemy in your stomach, you can keep casting your 2, and if you use the Decaying Dragon Key, it will reduce your shields, because Grendel has very low shields, as you can see right here, with no buffs, 75 shield. If you put on Decaying Dragon Key, I don't really recommend this usually because it's kind of cheesy, but it will reduce Grendel's shield to 19. That is enough that if you use Grendel's second ability, it will give you enough shield to be permanently invincible, if you know the mechanics of shield getting in this game. So it's kind of cheesy, but it is technically something you can do if you're just a gambling man. It actually is. The reason I don't like it is because it feels like there's no risk of failure. So right there, we ate that guy. We technically will be taking damage on our health, but we can just keep casting this to go to full shield gain. As long as you keep casting, you will never take damage. And yeah, the heavy gunner is just a sitting duck at this point. And you can just keep casting this. As long as the enemy's in your stomach, you can keep casting the 2 and just, be permanent invincible. As you can see, the enemy was in our stomach for about 10 seconds there. Barf them up, and they're dead. Now, technically, you want more enemies in your stomach because it will make it scale up more. So, eat about, 5 enemies. The toxin proc becomes stronger and stronger, but all her armor was gone when she came out. So let's summon in a bunch of heavy gunners here and just try to face tank them for a good chunk of time here. Now, let's do just, 20. Let's see how long Grendel can survive this. Keep in mind, we have also multiple sources of healing. We also have our Panzervolpa Phyla. Eat a couple enemies here, get some extra armor. We have 400 extra armor. Now, if we get low health, what we do is just cast our 2. It will give us a big heal. Right there, about 1,300 health heal right there. And, this is pretty good. Let's see if the enemies in our stomach are good and shoot up. Should have been about 10 seconds there, and they will be dead. And there you go. Very dead enemies. And we died because, here's the thing about this. When I play Grendel, I kind of just walk around and just don't even try. I mean, he's a meme frame, honestly. More of a joke than an actual good character. But he is better than Yoreli, at least. His buffs, he does buff his teammates. He's not completely selfish like Yoreli is. He has a huge health bar, which for casual gameplay and just like, you know, I went like an hour in the Steel Path, and I think I died once when I tabbed out to respond to a text message. So that's pretty good for no shield gating cheese in the Steel Path, honestly. We're using the Kuvazar with the build that we've shown in previous videos. You know, basically no Serration, primary Merciless, you know how it is. I'm not using the red crit cheese, but you technically could use that as well. In Hunter Munitions, because Roar does apply twice to slash procs on something like this. So, you know, if you don't have a Riven, it's very easy to replace it with lots of different things. Hunter Munitions, Prime Firestorm, etc., etc. It's the current meta right now. And we're not even using melee, really. You could use melee if you wanted to, but we just got the Furax Wraith for Amalgam Furax body count, giving you a bigger explosion radius. And we have the Panzer Volpaphyla. I mean, a lot of people know about this already. You technically could go with the synth mods to like permanently be picking up health orbs, but it's not too big of a deal. So we've got, you know, Hunter Recovery to heal, you know, Sharpened Claws remove enemy armor, and just Viral Quills is the real big thing here. Making enemies take Viral procs, it comes back from the dead. It's just, they need to change companion survivability, honestly. It's just so annoying to like res a Moa, res a Kubro, like it's just not worth it. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Like I said, I'm okay. I feel like it wasn't a waste. Grendel can do some pretty ridiculous stuff, eating the entire map. The energy drain does get pretty aggressive, and I personally feel like, well, first off, we have other videos of Grendel on the channel if you want to see an energy-focused Grendel build with Spectro Siphon. That was like over a year-old video at this point, but we have multiple other Grendel videos on the channel, like Stealth Grendel and all that. I feel like trying to fix his energy issue is just a losing battle. Don't even bother. Just go with a really good Helminth ability like Roar, Gloom, Breach Surge, Ensnare, I guess, kind of. I don't really think he needs Ensnare. But keep in mind, don't use Larva because Grendel can actually eat enemies that are ragdolled. So from like Larva or Korra Strangledom, not going to work. So yeah, I hope you find it helpful. I mean, it's a pretty boring setup. I mean, it's Roar. I mean, of course, Roar is super basic, but it's super good because the way I look at it, he's barfing enemies out. They take a Toxin proc. That Roar will help with the Toxin proc, so you're going to be guaranteed one-shot these guys. Those guys didn't die, but they were only in my stomach for about a couple seconds there. So yeah. Also, make sure you get Arcane Energize for this too, of course. I mean, if you don't have Arcane Energize, you might want to try the Hunter Adrenaline setup by taking off Continuity. Not like you really need the buffs to last that long anyway. So, you know, it is a pretty good mod on Grendel, especially with that huge health pool. You'll have very high energy quite often. But the thing is, we're not having to spam that much. So it's going to be really up to personal preference, like I said. Either way, guys, take it easy and peace.